Hi. So that was really, really bad. I did a write-up for 710sports.com. We do our instant reactions. I said this was an embarrassing loss, but I wish I had a stronger word. The Seahawks just lost a game to a quarterback playing his second game ever who got hurt only to be replaced by a quarterback with a busted thumb, Jared Goff, who I got to give credit, is really tough. Still, it's not just that you lost this game. I might not even be as annoyed as I am right now had they lost this game in close fashion. They got their butts kicked up and down the field. And I'm going to make a couple of guys immune from the coming criticism. Tyler Lockett, who, when the ball was thrown his way, made some really impressive catches, including that one-hander. I will take Jamal Adams out of the equation. The guy was playing with a torn labrum. He was wrecking people all over the field. Yes, he missed that one tackle on the Cam Akers 44-yard catch and run. Yes, I don't know how the hell Cooper Kupp caught that pass. He's out. Bobby Wagner, who I've been frustrated with a lot this year, even though he's a first-team All-Pro, had 16 total tackles. He had 3 stuffs. He had a tackle for a loss. He had a sack. There could have been some things done better by Wagner, perhaps, as the game wore on, but I can't fault him. Jason Myers. Who else? Who else can we put in that conversation? Chris Carson. Outside of that, my God. I did not think it was possible for them to lose this game. I really didn't. And you heard me being as cocky as I was all week. Rightfully so. I still don't think the Los Angeles Rams are that impressive of a football team. Their defense is really good. You had one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. The first 5 games of the season, that was the best offense in the league. Where did it go? I don't know. So let's just start off with what I think is the biggest problem. Russell Wilson stunk in this game. If you argue against that, I don't know what you're watching, but I'm specifically pointing at their offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. And let's just go to that interception return for a touchdown by Darius Williams. That play was so telegraphed. Who didn't see that coming? I mean, I'm not a football scientist or anything like that, but if DK Metcalf is lined out wide behind a wide receiver who is right next to him, isn't the obvious play that's coming a screen pass? And guess what? Darius Williams knew it. He jumped it, pick 6. That's it. That's it. This team goes 2 of 14 on third down. They never figured out how to move the football. It was so disjointed from the beginning to the end. And how? Period. That's it. How? Your whole offensive line's healthy. For the first time all year, 5 sacks. Leonard Floyd gets 2 more. Aaron Donald doesn't even play half the game. He gets 2. He was really good when he did play. Again, this defense for the Rams is great. It really is. And maybe they'll be able to go on a run with it, despite Jared Goff's thumb not working and poor John Wolford, who is in the hospital with a neck injury. But how is your offense getting shut down by that? And where is the counterpunch? Where is the game plan that can do anything? Okay, it's one thing if you struggle. 2 of 14 on third down, which is an all-season problem. And I wrote this in my little blog post for 710sports.com. The decay of the Seahawks offense from the beginning of the year to what we've seen over the last half of the season is one of the most disappointing things that I've ever seen from a good football team. And yes, I say good football team. I haven't covered many good football teams, but I did grow up watching the New England Patriots. It's weird seeing on the television over there Tom Brady carving up yet another person who talked trash about him. Nothing like that ever happened to them. They don't lose like that in the playoffs outside of that one time to the Baltimore Ravens in 2009. I hold the Seahawks to that same standard. And this is something that never should have happened. What else do we have here? I wrote a bunch of things. Sean McVay 6-3 against Pete Carroll. So that's fun. Pete had his trademark challenging a play that he shouldn't, which cost them a timeout. I don't know how much it cost them ultimately, but I thought, honestly, too, in the press box that Jared Goff walked past the line of scrimmage on that play that he challenged. You've also got, my favorite when the Seahawks are really slow getting to the line of scrimmage. It was a 4th and 1. Damian Lewis had gotten injured, so they had pretty much all the time to get ready for the play. And Damian Lewis, the injury timeout's over. All of a sudden, the Seahawks are just standing around. They don't know what they're doing. They walk up to the line of scrimmage. Oh, my goodness, it's almost a delay of game. False start, that's it. And it just happens so much, I guess I can't be mad at it anymore. Maybe I should just expect it, but my goodness. The offensive line, which, again, was fully healthy. 2 holds from Ethan Posick, 1 hold from Mike Iupati. Jordan Simmons had a false start. Brandon Shell, an eligible man downfield. So all but Damian Lewis and Dwayne Brown gets penalized in that game. Lockett and Will Dissly did have 10 penalty yards of their own on false starts. I don't get it. I just can't believe that this happened. DJ Reed fumbles that punt return. Kickoff return. Because, yeah, the Rams scored. And he had played well up to that point. It's really just angering. And this is where I'm going to turn it over to you because I need some help to react to some of this stuff. You can ask me anything about this game, or if you have any comments about this game, whether it's on Facebook, on Periscope, or what, please weigh in. Mitch Webster says, feels bad, man. Yes. You should be in the second round of the playoffs. That is your God-given right as a Seahawks fan. Every single year, you should be in the second round of the playoffs. That's an expectation for, I would say, like 8 franchises in the NFL. You lost to the Rams. I mean, so much for winning the NFC West and going 12-4. None of that matters now. You lost to the second-place team. The home field didn't matter. Obviously, it's this year, so the pandemic, but, Zach Morgan, what you got, Paul Gallant? Anger. Short Round on YouTube asks, no good, very bad game. Yes. Very bad game. I don't know if that's a sentence or a question. Zach Morgan, that Russ couldn't come through in a playoff situation. Why has that Russ been here as long as he has? I mean, this is an entire half of a season, and this is why I go back to asking, how can you justify Brian Schottenheimer being the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks next year with the way that the offense went from the start of the season to the end? And I would just say the predictability of that pick 6. How does that happen? The telegraphed play. Okay, those happen in the NFL. The Rams are a smart defense. They predicted it, but they never improved. They never got better. And we went from Brian Schottenheimer being a legitimate head coaching candidate to a guy who I'm like, I don't have any trust in him. I don't. That was my initial opinion about Brian Schottenheimer when he was with the New York Jets. I came here and all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe Brian Schottenheimer's not that bad. But this game is awful. Awful. Going up against an offense that can't score. They score points, which is frustrating in and of itself, but where were the adjustments? Aaron Donald didn't play half this game. He got hurt. In the pass rush, oh boy, still getting after you. Matthew Westbury says, yep, figure you'd get on over the poor coaching job. You were out coached, that's for sure. Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator of the Rams, that guy put Brian Schottenheimer in a locker. I suppose he does that to a lot of people, but man, masterclass by him. Zach Morgan, super bad. Yep. Matt Gilbert, they were totally rammed out of this game. Well, at least Matt Gilbert is appreciating my love of corniness and cheesiness. Wait, do I have any glasses nearby? Oh, I do, actually. They were totally rammed out of the game. That's the sound effects of CSI Miami and Horatio Kane. Frank, we have 6 years of evidence that Pete's team has a ceiling. Is it a self-imposed ceiling, the way that you're framing it, Frank? I really wish I had more words to describe that side of it, but there shouldn't be a ceiling when it comes to the first round of the playoffs. There just shouldn't. There shouldn't. You're better than the Rams. The Rams' quarterback situation was a disaster with Jared Goff healthy under center. And now they get John Wolford in there. Pete's team's ceiling. I mean, you guys have been through this a lot longer than me, so I suppose some of y'all are used to it, but why is the ceiling there? I mean, maybe the cavalier attitude towards the slow starts on offense. Oh, well, we'll get it done in the fourth quarter. You can't consistently procrastinate throughout life. And I could tell you that firsthand, because that's something I do way too much of. Procrastinate. I've got to get better at that. But at least I'm aware of it. The Seahawks are very casual about it. Oh, well, look, when Russell Wilson's in the fourth quarter, he's great. No, not today. Not today. And they had plenty of time in the fourth to get back in it. They really did. The DJ Reed fumble, that hurt a lot. I don't blame him for trying to make a play. But 23-13 turns to 30-13. Oy vey. Rick Rickney says Jaron Reed. Yep, Jaron Reed played well. That's the other guy I forgot to mention. He had 2 sacks in the game. Jaron Reed did play well. Rick also says play calling and execution. The play calling offensively just never felt like there was cohesion. We're going to run the football from time to time. We like to run it outside. Why don't you just run it at Aaron Donald? I feel like that would wear him down and perhaps make him slightly less effective running after the quarterback every single play. Zach says we looked like a confused team offensively. That's an understatement. Russ looked confused. And they've got to find a way against these teams that can get after them that quickly to make plays happen that involve getting the ball out quickly. There is way too much of this drop back and let Russ run around. And yes, he makes plays, and he made some great plays there, like the throw for a touchdown that he had to DK Metcalf. But there is way too much of this. Let's send Russ straight back. He's not a pocket passer. Do things that make him keep him on the move, as opposed to just standing there and letting this Rams pass rush throw your offensive lineman around. You got to be better there. Rick asks, why don't we roll out Russ more? Yes, that's exactly where I'm at. Matthew Westbury, I've already seen 5 screens to DK this year. Yeah, that was an easy read. Alex says Pete deserves all the blame. No, the blame goes to everyone. It goes to everyone, and I'm focusing more of the blame on Russ and on Brian Schottenheimer than on anyone else, because it belongs to those two more than anyone else. Pete deserves his share of the blame. I mean, I guess he's in charge of Brian Schottenheimer. The defense, they were really struggling to make some tackles out there and got pushed around by a Rams offense that was as limited as it was, given their quarterback situation. The offensive line didn't play well. Why DK Metcalf had that drop towards the end of the game, thrown right to him, jumps up in the air, bounces off his hands. Alex French, it's always the offensive coordinator's fault. Continuing off of, this is all on Pete. A lot of this is on Brian Schottenheimer, but I suppose Pete has not been able to find an offensive coordinator that can actually make an effective offense consistently. You saw it last year until the injuries happened. You saw it this year until the second half of the season, so half of the year. I suppose you can't blame it all on the offensive coordinator, but I think that's where most of the blame goes. You need to have somebody that has an ability to adapt in-game better than Schottenheimer, and I guess better than whatever input Pete might have there. Zach, the bottom line is that the Rams wanted it more. I don't like that line of thinking. The Seahawks wanted it. You have Carlos Dunlap out there, who also played well. You have Jamal Adams out there. Regan Packard says bash Goff again. Yeah, I can't really bash Goff after this one. I mean, he outclassed Russell Wilson, and he was playing with a busted thumb. And that's why you can't quite say Jared Goff's a bad quarterback. He's above average. This was one of his best performances ever, and it's one that he should cherish dearly. He played tough. He played tough against the Seahawks a couple of weeks ago, too. I will tip my hat to Jared Goff, even though I would never want him on my team because he is dramatically overpaid. Shane says that DK, in addition to Will Dissly and Jacob Hollister, had bad drops. Yeah. Can we burn that banner? I'm assuming that refers to the NFC West title. Yeah, I think we can. Actually, check that. That would be riotous. You don't want to do that too soon. But yeah, I don't ever want to be told about the NFC West title that they won this year. Where do you need to get better? Head coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, GM talent. I will not blame the GM. John Schneider's the guy who's done the best job, I think, when it comes to the main power structure on this team this season. Offensive coordinator, I can't justify bringing back Brian Schottenheimer. Pete Carroll, they were 12-4 this year. The defense really improved as the season went along. The defense did hold its own for a time in this game, but as the game went on, they got tired and they couldn't stop Malcolm Brown on the ground. Ken Norton Jr. is a part of that Pete Carroll defense. The defense is I think, where Pete has more of his hands in the cookie jar, if you will. And because they got better as the season went along, I can't say after a 12-4 season that Pete's the main culprit, or that there needs to be a change at head coach. I don't believe that. And I don't believe there needs to be a change at quarterback. Russell Wilson's still a very good quarterback, though we might not be able to say he's one of the best in the game anymore. Ugh. Looking over to the left. Oh, Washington football team actually making it a game. What else do we got here? Shane, when Russ overthrew DK on the moonball touchdown, it hurt my soul. I know he overthrew him by so much, too. He was under pressure in his defense, and he was under pressure all night, but God, he had him. He had him on that one. Jacob McCann, oh, Paul, time for some serious changes. Well, what else can you make as a change after offensive coordinator, like legitimately? And come on, don't spare me with the Pete Carroll stuff. It's not going to happen, number one. But number two, you could do a lot worse at head coach. This is coming from somebody who has covered worse head coaches. Bill O'Brien, Gary Kubiak. Yeah, I'll put Gary Kubiak in that conversation. But Paul, Gary Kubiak won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. Okay, yeah. I mean, that was John Elway's team that he put together. That was John Fox's team the year before. And that was the defense that really put it all together. Christopher Stotko, speechless. I'm so tired of the let's hang around and win it in the fourth quarter. It was a terrible display of football. How do we go from MVP Russ with a leaky faucet defense to a stagnant offense with a top-notch defense? Just a disgusting game. And I don't know if they're even top-notch, but I had said this week, this defense has limitations as far as how much it can hold you up. It can only do it for a while, and it needs help from the offense. And you know what? What they did in the second half of this season, considering some of the no-shows by the offense, is something to be celebrated. But yes, you're right, Chris. We can't accept this anymore. And I know I'm probably going to hear it from Pete on Monday. I'm trying to think of a polite way to counter that, because I don't want to be a jerk, but right now, I mean, I'm ticked off, and that's all I can really think about. Because I know that's probably going to be like, hey, like, it's a great defense, the Rams. Okay, but you got to be better than that. You have Russell Wilson. Oh, but Russell Wilson traditionally gets it done in the fourth quarter, but he didn't this time around. To me, this is a basketball comparison, but James Harden's always great in the regular season. Then the playoffs start. It's a totally different game, and all the bad habits that he has get magnified. The lack of effort on defense, the streaks where he can't hit shots, and you see him in the regular season, you bring him up during the regular season, but everyone's like, oh yeah, well, you know, he's one of the best players in the NBA, MVP. And I think we tend to do that with Russ a bit. And I think a lot of us are starting to, especially with the second half of the season, because it was such consistent, you know, mediocrity compared to the first half of the year. Just 12 touchdown passes the last 8 games. We started thinking to ourselves, oh, okay, well, this has got to change. But there was a bit of a cavalier explanation as far as the offense. And I was worried about that. Pete wasn't when he talked with us on Monday, and that's something that's going to have to change. Jake Jones, does Russ have a head injury? Not to my knowledge. Christopher Otto, possible DK is a me guy as to a team guy? No. I don't believe that at all. I think DK is a team guy. He's a pissed off wide receiver. I know he was shown on the sidelines being angry. I don't blame him. RBs and O-line just couldn't get in sync and figure it out even when Donald was out. Yeah, I mean, Donald was out. That should have changed the game. It didn't. Wolford was out. It should have changed the game. It didn't. I mean, you were gifted things in this game. Cooper Kupp got hurt. A lot of the best Rams players or most important players got hurt in this game, and you for the most part, are healthy coming out of it. We'll see what's up with Bobby Wagner. We'll see what's up with Damian Lewis. But Bobby Wagner came back in. He played. Jamal Adams played the whole game. Taylor Bell. Oh, it's Tab. Nice. Tab's a super fan. I don't know how to activate the super chat from doing this thing on Restream and through OBS, which is how I'm doing it. Zach Morgan. Wilson for Watson. What do you think, Alon? All right, well, you're thinking about trades now. I mean, you're going to have a bigger window if you have Watson over Wilson. Watson statistically had a great year. His defense let him down in game after game after game. I got to think on that because I feel like if Watson came here, maybe you'd have some of the same restrictions, limitations offensively that you've seen from Russell Wilson this year. And I think Watson was dealing with some of his own issues this season, perhaps from the head coach that he had at the beginning of the year, then Romeo Crennel later in the year. Though I guess the Texans like Tim Kelly, whatever. You guys, I know, for the most part, don't care about the Texans. I know my Houston listeners who are watching right now, I apologize. I would go in detail about the Texans, but no, this is all about the Seahawks right now. Shane says he would have rather played Arizona. The Rams are pretenders. They won't go far at all. Yep, I know, but we can't say that now. They beat the Seahawks. Alex asks, what happened to Jacob Hollister? Didn't even look like he wanted to be there. Hollister is a third tight end. Those drops were hard to watch. I feel that the trust that Russ has in Jacob Hollister should be henceforth probably thrown away. I don't know that he can trust throwing the ball to Hollister as much as he has in the past. What else do we have here? Muhammad Alatar says, my problem is that the loss feels familiar and totally not surprising, which is weird when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and a supposed Hall of Fame head coach. That is the nail hit on the head. That is the perfect summation. And you guys have experienced it a lot more than me, so I suppose maybe you guys are like, well, here we go again. And if that's the case, I feel for you if you've gotten to that place of despondence. You should not lose in the first round of the playoffs if you have a quarterback as good as Russell Wilson or if you have a head coach as good as Pete Carroll. You did both today, and you lost to a team that had a quarterback situation that was a nightmare. Oh, my goodness. Oh, God. How? How did that happen? How? It's the Rams. Sean McVay's got a photographic memory. Now I got to hear that all week. Oh, did we have it wrong on Jared Goff? Oh, my God. I'm sure I'm going to be on freezing cold takes because I killed the Rams in March. Good God. James Glenn Taylor, he doesn't have enough subscribers. Well, thanks for reminding me that, James. I guess the Seahawks aren't the only losers tonight. Shane Hafner. Seattle not getting a single takeaway when it matters is unacceptable. Punch the ball out. A little easier said than done. But Akers ran all over them. I think tackling, start by tackling, wrapping up and tackling. And, I mean, there was a bad miss by Bobby in this one. I think that was right after the Cam Akers screen that got the Rams down to, the Seahawks 25 or something like that. Ugh. Chris Stotko, I'm wondering as well if Russ is secretly hurt. Like, after the year's over, it comes out he got hurt midseason. Otherwise, he's had an epic collapse from the first 5 games to the end of the year. It might happen, but, I mean, he's not going to let anyone know. That's just not going to happen. Most quarterbacks don't do that. That's Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger. They're rare when it comes to, letting people know about the injuries. Jacob McCann, I'm tired of the win it in the fourth quarter crap mentality. Yep, we're throwing that out. You know, I don't know how many of y'all have watched the Ten Commandments movie starring Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner is the, evil pharaoh. And one of his lines in that show is consistently, so let it be written, so let it be done. And there's a point where Moses is found out to be Jewish, to be Hebrew. He's kicked out of Egypt. And when he's kicked out, the daddy of Ramses says, you'll be stricken from the records. And then, no one will ever remember Moses. That needs to happen to anyone who, sorry for the long tangent, that needs to happen to any idea that the Seahawks will just figure it out in the fourth quarter. Oh, no big deal. It's fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Matthew Westbury. Do we have to look at what Pete's ceiling is as far as how the team goes? 2 first-round buys and the number 1 seed equals a Super Bowl. Since the 2014 divisional round exits, they haven't been competitive in each exit. They were competitive against the Packers. I disagree with that. Less so against the Cowboys the year before. This was the least competitive performance that we've seen by them in a while. And while they've had some like ugly starts, what was it? The game against the, was it 15? Where they started off so poorly against the Carolina Panthers, but they came back and they made it a game at the end. They have at the very least found a way to crawl back in and make it competitive at the end in every single game except for this one. I mean, they got knocked down after that fumbled punt by DJ Reed, and that was it. I mean, it was over early. Rick Rigney, what happened to the option play? Something else for opponents to think about. What do you mean, like the read option play? I guess they just don't trust Russ doing it. Maybe they also look at the Rams defensive line, how good it is that the offensive line they feel is maybe not going to be able to hold up its end of the bargain long enough for a run out of the shotgun. I don't mind that idea, honestly. I don't think Russ is as quick as he used to be on that front. Tab says, don't talk Texans. They suck. Shane Hafner, Olsen retires a Seahawk. I would not be surprised if he retired because I don't even remember him being on the field today. Rick Rigney, no more Wilson MVP talk. Yeah, I'm game for that. I'm game for that. Individual awards are a curse upon 2021 society. Bunch of kids looking for participation trophies. Ugh. HM, I'm at a loss for words. I got no answers, but I'm looking forward to listening to you and Danny chop it up on Monday. Well, thank you, because I'm not looking forward to doing the show. I'm not looking forward to it at all. You know, a lot of people think, hey, after a loss, it's easy for sports talk radio. No, because yes, the first show, you have a lot to react to. But the second show and the third show, that's when you stare into the abyss of an off season. And think about just how long you got to wait for the next time around. And this isn't a satisfying end at all. Like, at least against the Packers, you're like, okay, well, if they're healthier, you feel better. They didn't even get to the second round. I mean, that's where the playoffs start to me. I don't even think this is a real round of the playoffs. Oh, super wild card weekend. Pfft. Throw it in the trash. This is when all the teams that don't matter play. I know it's different now because you have the teams with you only have one team getting a first round bye, but Kemuel Santana, the Russ slander has been crazy. Blaming Russ for this season's woes, yeah, fine. But saying Russ shouldn't be a part of the next 5 years in this organization. Yeah, anyone who's saying that is stupid. Sorry. Let's just be simple. Don't say that. Don't. Come on. Don't say that. Russ is going to be here. Pete's going to be here. You got to find something else offensively. Because the beginning of the year to where you're at now, that's decay. You got worse. Is it going to get better next year? No, I would imagine that we're going to be in for the same thing. And I think it was Marcellus Wiley. And I remember hearing this take and I was like, oh, blow it out your you know what, Marcellus, when he said, you know, Russ is going to start off the season great, but he always tails off as the season goes along. Well, there's something to what he's saying. So I got to fall on the sword on that. They have to find a way to get better as the season goes along on offense. And that hasn't been happening. They've gotten worse. Shane, I would have preferred a 23-20 loss. Yes, yes. This wasn't even competitive. I at the very least I could say, oh well, it was close. They never had a chance in this game based off of this. They lost 30-13 to a team with bad quarterbacks, and Aaron Donald hurt. Oh my god, I'm just at a loss. I will have a drink later. I have some scotch. I have some Pacifico. Also awkward over here. Like the guy I grew up rooting for is dominating with a new team. In a new uniform, so that's nice. Tab asks, do you think the Jamal Adams deal paid off? Yes. He played on a torn labrum today, and if he was playing like that on a torn labrum, he played really well. He is not a great guy in coverage. He's not. We saw that against Cooper Kupp. We saw it also when he broke on the football and his arm. I don't know if he could lift it above his head. But if you're playing on a torn labrum and you can be a competent player out there and lay the wood, man, you're tough as nails. I like him. I think he's the future leader of this defense. I do think it was worth it, but it does hurt not having those 2 first-round picks. I don't know if you're going to find anything close to a guy like Jamal Adams, but you're going to probably need to look at an offensive lineman to put aboard so that maybe you're a little bit less terrible up the middle on the offensive line against Aaron Donald. Andre, so this game was worse than the Giants game. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Wes, everyone has figured out Carroll's game planning, especially the Rams. Man, I really thought that they'd crack the Rams' defensive code at the end of that Week 16 game. I mean, Russ was moving around. He was doing throws on the run. He was scrambling when he needed to. He had that awesome throw where he shook a dude and he threw it to Carlos Hyde. It set up the touchdown run that he had. But, yeah, the Rams are smarter than you with their head coaching. HM, I think a young, innovative offensive coordinator would benefit this offense greatly. The big question is, would Pete ever even let that happen? I will ask in as polite a way as I possibly can on Monday if Pete feels the need for any changes on the offensive coaching staff. That's about as far as I can go. Jordan Cruz, Pete and Russ's pressers make it sound like Shoddy isn't a lock for next year. I actually have to watch those pressers again. But that should be the case. With where they started to where they finished, I just don't know how you justify it. And I've said that a million times. So that's my biggest take coming out of this game. What else do we have here? Only a couple more comments to get to. Jordan Cruz. Also wouldn't be surprised if Schneider takes another look at that Lions job. Let's pause for a second. On that. First off, the Lions have a guy that's basically in charge of whoever comes aboard, because they brought in Chris Spielman. So they have like an executive who's technically going to have more power than John Schneider, no matter what. So that's the first thing. Second, the Fords are the worst ownership in the NFL. They are less competitive than the Browns. They have been in the Lions. Like they haven't been good since the 50s. I think their last title was over the Browns, but the Browns won more titles than them in the 50s. They've had two of their best players retire early. And, I don't talk about this on the air, but I do think this is karma. The Fords, just take a look up at their history. I would say specifically their history when it comes to anti-Semitism in the 1920s and 1930s. There's a publication that printed something that was, I think, more anti-Semitic, and I haven't read this book and I don't plan on it, but there's a publication that came out before Hitler's book that came from a Ford publication that I feel like is just karma for the Lions that they've been this bad because they're owned by the Ford family. Anywho, sorry, I could go all day on that one, but look it up for yourself if you want more information on that. The Lions are a terrible organization, and anyone who goes there, they better be getting paid handsomely. Rick. Wait, I answered that question. Did I answer that question? Maybe I didn't. If we got a young, innovative offensive coordinator, would he be able to run his offense, or would Pete make him run another offense? I think is where you were going with that question. Pete is probably going to ask for that balance if things hit a wall the way that they did in the middle of the year where Russ started turning the football over. And that's also a frustration. But I think what we learned today is that against a great defense, balance is not going to win. It's not. Didn't beat the Giants. Chris Carson actually had a good game. Maybe they should have committed more to running Chris Carson in between the tackles outside instead of trying to go outside as much as they did. That's the only thing I can really think of that maybe Schottenheimer could have done differently, but no, I don't necessarily. Hang on. Let me pause for a second. Pete's probably always going to be in command of what he wants the offense to do, because didn't we see this before with past offensive coordinators? Hasn't this always been the way that Pete Carroll's offenses have been run? So, yeah, I think there is a concern that bringing in somebody other than Brian Schottenheimer, you would have that problem. Andres, does John Schneider leave? No. They're 12-4, man. They have Russell Wilson. I guess I can't definitively say no because I guess he does, I think, want to get paid a little bit more. I think some general manager jobs have actually seen higher salaries in extensions than John has, and I think he just has 1 year left on his contract. But the Seahawks should pay him. That's what I'll say. I don't know what John Schneider's interest levels are in other teams. Oh, Paul, way to not answer the question at first and then sort of do a 180 on it. Schneider, they should pay him whatever he wants. Money should never be an object when there's no cap limit for head coaches and for general managers. What do we have here? Zach Morgan. I hope all the Let Russ Cook fans start saying Let Russ Simmer. Honestly, I more than anything, I kind of want the analytical crew to calm down a bit, but I think we're all in lockstep here. Like that offense led by Brian Schottenheimer has got some serious questions. Jacob McCann, blow it all up. Haha, JK, have a good night. Looking forward to Monday talks. I'm not. I'm still not. Lewis Heston says hi. Well, hi. And this is where I wrap things up. The Seahawks season ended 30-20. They lose to the Los Angeles Rams. Embarrassing. And if there was a worse word for embarrassing that I was allowed to say, I certainly would say it. But it can't come to mind right now because I'm just so damn angry. Ugh, what an awful way to end the year. Thanks for tuning into this Monday morning, 7 o'clock. It's going to be Danny and me. Michael Bumpus joins at 9, Pete Carroll 9:30. Then it's just me, 10 to 11. We want to hear from you. Make sure that you text in 710-710, that you call in 206-421-3776. Tweet me at Gallant Says, all that jazz. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm on YouTube, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Twitter at Gallant Says, facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. Twitch, I'm also at Gallant Says there. That's how you can follow me. So long, farewell, and Monday at 7 o'clock. I dread that moment, but it sure is coming, and you will probably hear some more vitriol from me. Woohoo!